Aunt Lainey's Kitchen. We are going to discuss some food news in Kansas City. But first, I want to kind of start off with a little bit of an anecdote. So, years ago, when I did not live in Kansas City, I was living in California and then New Mexico, but mainly New Mexico is when I really started listening. There used to be like this whole thing with podcasts. It was like a real player. And so what would happen is that people would like, they would put something on their radio station and then they'd have like they would load it up to real player after maybe a day or so sometimes or 2 days after the show had aired. So I started listening to this show on KCUR called the Bodine Show, and that he would have, and this is years ago because he's since passed on. He would have like, I think it was like maybe every other week or something like that. He'd have food critics on from Kansas City. They would talk about the local food news, all the stuff. So I started to feel like, as an adult in my 30s back then, I started to feel like, oh wow, I'm kind of, getting to know Kansas City again. I'm kind of like, and I was picturing the places that they were talking about. Oh, this place is in Midtown, it's great. Oh, this place is downtown. Oh, this is, in the newly minted Power and Light district at the time, like all the things. And so I was like, oh, okay. So it really kind of kept me, whenever I get a little homesick, I would like listen to like the food restaurant reviews on that show. Or I would like, read online. I'd read reviews from the Kansas City Star, like anything that they had on their paper, like all the stuff I would do. And so, back then there was probably like maybe 10 names that would always be in rotation. It was kind of like, it was a smaller but burgeoning thing. The food scene, again, it's always been big if you know, but like, it's just kind of getting some note outside of Kansas City, which, again, we always like that. But so now I want to talk to you. Like now I feel like, a torch has been passed for myself, and now I'll talk to you a little bit about the openings and closings that are going on. Now, here's one of the things I always have, I do have some regrets. I some of these restaurants I never got a chance to try because I was just so busy and I wasn't really maybe focused on that. I had my standard favorites and I wasn't really, like I wasn't really trying to like expand. It was just a subconscious thing. I'm like, oh no, I've got my favorite tier. I've got my favorite tier. So I kind of, for a few years, got caught in a box of like, and I was pretty busy, all the things. And so now I'm that, my schedule has kind of freed up a lot and I'm more mobile and I know the city a lot better, not just from memory, but actually like going places. So now I'm like, okay, I have it within me to start trying some of these restaurants before, unfortunately, they close or relocate somewhere or, whatever it is. So I'm going to start with the closings first, just so we can end on a happier note. So Chingu is closing. And that was a Korean restaurant that was located in Westport. They close on May 24th. So they're going to be closing. Lion's Choice, which is located in Liberty, in the Northland. I've never been there. I've never even heard of this place. They're going to close their final KC area location, and I believe that they are based. They're like a St. Louis based restaurant chain, and they're going to be closing. And then Tony's Italian Restaurant is closing. It closed its Olathe location, but I'd never even heard of Tony's Italian Restaurant, and I think I want to do like maybe going forward some kind of installment of like strip mall restaurants, those places that maybe you hear about, but you forget because they're tucked away. And a lot of times when you go places like in Johnson County, they have a lot of strip mall restaurants. Same with Lee Summit and same with Liberty. Like this, just stuff I've noticed. There's a lot of strip mall situations going on. Nothing wrong with that in my view, but just, sometimes that's why they're not standalone restaurants that are just in a parking lot and it's the restaurant. No, it's tucked away by a cute little tailor shop or a cobbler shop, something like that. A Salty Iguana, I think they were making the news maybe a month or so ago. They closed all their locations in Kansas City and Lawrence. And then this one kind of hurts for me, Cafe Gratitude. It closed last month, and that was one of the places that was always on my list to go. And every time I tried to go, there was something that came up. Either it was a weather or then my schedule changed, and then I would pass it, and I'm like, I'm gonna go there, and then I would pass it on my way to someplace else. So I'm a little, my heart's a little like broken a little bit that I didn't get to try because I heard all good things about this place. Okay, now the openings. AR's Breakfast and Brunch, it's going to open in Westport, and it's going to replace Chingu, the restaurant that's closing May 24th. So they're going to change it up with a breakfast and brunch spot. And then I hope I'm Anjin. It's a casual neighborhood bar, like Japanese neighborhood bar, kind of serving that. And it's supposed to be opening on Oak Street, 1708 Oak Street. And then Gaia Masala and Burger. This is a concept restaurant that's offering Indian, American, and Mediterranean food, and it's going to be located in Westport. Um, and then the Antler Room. Now, I have not been to the Antler Room ever, and it's always on my list, and I know that I need to go there. It's going to be celebrating its anniversary, and I guess it must be related to Anjin. So, okay. And then Old Havana. Now, this is in the Northland, and I have been seeing signs for this. I've driven past it a couple of times, so they're saying it's open. So I might have to go over there and check it out, see for myself. And then this one, when I was reading about this one, I was like, okay, Jerusalem Cafe, chicken waffle, and a Virgin Rebel. It's a 3-in-1 spot in the Power and Light District. It's going to take over where Famous Dave's used to be. Um, and I was reading, they were kind of like, this is going to be because it's a mock Virgin Rebel is a mocktail bar. So it looks like it's going to be kind of like a family friendlier place, maybe to go to in the Power and Light District. I'm not saying that they're not all family friendly, but I just think it seems like, as I was reading the description of this, it seems like it's going to be, some a little something for everybody. I guess it's uh the Kansas City Star article from April 29th said mocktails, chicken, and hummus coming to Casey's Power and Light. So, it's for me, it's got to be something that I might have to check out because parking can be challenging down there. So, sometimes it's like you're in the mood for some of all these other things, but you might not necessarily want to walk really far. Or if you're like me, you're like, okay, I'll walk, but if it's really dark outside or if it's cold or it's rainy, I don't want to leave like where I'm at. And it looks like they're going to be serving vegan dishes as well. So yeah, that sounds interesting. That sounds very interesting to me. Now, how do I find it? People ask me all the time, how do you find out, what's going on? Like what is I read everything. And I didn't used to be trained that way. I used to just kind of look at a couple of resources and I'm like, okay, and I take some notes and move on. But now with social media expanding and just, everywhere like TikTok and Instagram and I'm on the Book of Faces still. Um all that stuff, even Substacks, Threads, all of it, Blue Sky. I just follow food creators and I, listen to food podcasts and, around the Kansas City area. And I'll do a separate show on that because I feel like that kind of, encompasses more things. And yeah, so that's kind of like what I do. And then somebody asked me how I pick the restaurants. And I think I talked about this in an earlier podcast, the ones I review. Basically, it's whatever I'm on a food quest for, as in the previous segment I talked about, but also, recommendations. People tell me, or I read a good recommendation about something, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I want to try it. I want to see, if there's a comparison and a contrast, like between what they thought and what I think, and because everybody has different tastes. Like right now, I am on a fast from beef, from red meat in general. And so I've really rediscovered my love for chicken and turkey and poultry and fish and all that. And I'm kind of like not new to that, but it's like it's a renewed because I used to really be more into that than red meat. And then I moved back to the Midwest. And I'm like, I need a steak, y'all. So yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm still craving the steak. And so there's certain places that I'm not gonna go to until I'm able to get a steak there. There's a couple steakhouses, and I know all the food is probably amazing, but I want to wait until my red meat fast is over, um, before I go there because I don't want to be tempted into like seeing the steak, pass me, people, being served steak or whatever. I'll be like, oh my gosh, and I can smell it and all the stuff. So, I've actually had to kind of change how like where I go because again, certain places, all the food is good, but I'm more tempted at certain places versus other places. So I'm really kind of rediscovering that love for non-red meat. And that's so where I'm at, that's kind of how I'm picking places. Also, I'd like to um, discover new neighborhoods. That's part of the food questing. Discover new neighborhoods, new to me neighborhoods. And so, like Independence, when I went to downtown Independence, I'd been there before, but I'd never been to the Courthouse Exchange. That's why I had to try it. And then I've got some more reviews coming up. Speaking of my own food news, I've got more reviews that I'm going to be doing because I went to a lot of places. And I feel like every podcast I'm apologizing. Like, I'm so sorry, I've got 7 reviews in here because it's like I can't turn around the reviews because I'm trying to actually like, review the food and give my thoughts on the food. And then also I'm running another podcast and blog. And so I'm running around doing that too. And again, I tell people I do have a day job, and a lot of like these my podcasts and blogs, I love them. It's for fun for me. It's joy. So I'm not that auntie in the corner going, "Oh my goodness, like this is why I like this restaurant and you should try their charcuterie board." And then I'm like holding people hostage. I can just like, say all my thoughts and write all my thoughts, and people have the option to either listen to those thoughts or read those thoughts or not. But that way, again, I'm not holding anybody hostage with my enthusiasm for a certain part of town, or my enthusiasm over a certain restaurant that, dearie, you must try. So yeah, that's my auntie voice right there. Well, thanks so much for listening today. And I'm really excited about the summer because there's so many more like food festivals, and that's probably another segment I'll do in a future podcast. But there's so many food festivals coming to the Kansas City area, surrounding areas, and I wish I could have a magic carpet and just go to all of them, right? And like just anytime and go to all of them and all. But I unfortunately I am unable to do that. But people will tell me, though, luckily I've got foodie friends that have different work schedules than I do, and so they will let me know how things are. They'll give me their view on like whether or not it's worth it for me to like take a half day and go to this festival, or if it's worth it for me to take a whole day off, if it's happening during a work day, and go to this festival, and tomorrow I am recording this on Friday, May 9th. Tomorrow I am going to be going to the Ivanhoe Farmers Market, and I did interview them my first episode, maybe it was my first episode, was like one of my first few episodes. I interviewed the market manager there, and I was like, and their schedule's a little different. It's like I think it's once a month. And so I interviewed them, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go. And then y'all, weather, schedule, a whole bunch of stuff happened. And every time they would have a market, I couldn't go. So that is on my list. And so I'm doing that tomorrow. And then also, Mission Market, because I interviewed the Mission Market manager, and they're on Thursday. So it's a little bit more challenging to get there, but I can get there in time. That's on my list as well. I want to start hitting the Wednesday and Thursday markets, just because like I feel like I'm missing out on that. It is during a work week. It is a little bit more hectic trying to get there, but I can get there. I feel like if I can if I can go after work to a hair appointment, like and get there by 5:45, then I can definitely make it to a farmer's market that goes from, 4 to 7 p.m. generally on Wednesdays and Thursdays when they have those. So again, um, I'm just so excited. Like I'm geeking out. I don't even know what to say because I'm so excited to do this farmers market for the first time tomorrow. And maybe maybe I'll be able to check out a museum because I do have like my dinner and a movie date, or maybe it's lunch and a movie date. So I gotta squeeze a lot of stuff in on Saturday. And then, Sunday, as I talked about before, my first segment, it is Mother's Day. So it's going to be a little bittersweet for my family, but, we'll probably sit and we'll eat good food and we'll be with each other and we'll tell stories about our mom and grandma and other matriarch people in our family that have sadly passed on. You can find me at auntlaneyskitchen.com. And yeah, take care, everyone.